Alexis Schoeb is the lawyer looking after Aivi Luik's case. He says what can't be tolerated is an interpretation of the rules that go beyond what the rules are there for. Alexi, thanks very much for joining me today. We'll talk about this kind of complex case in a way that is as simple as possible so that people can understand without losing any of the context. And so we have a scenario where there is no evidence of a positive test. There is evidence that somebody got an injection for medical treatment, which was entirely legal because it was outside of competition, not inside of competition. But somehow we now have this athlete, Aivi Luik, who has been given a 3-month suspension for failing the anti-doping code. Take us through that, just unravel that, the way you see it in legal terms.
As you can imagine, there is no anti-doping cases that is really simple and easy to understand in simple words. But your summary is right. Let's start with the first point. There is no positive tests. And I guess everyone has had some experience in the media with athletes being tested positive. That's, I would say, the classical situation for anti-doping bodies to catch cheaters. And then you have another part, which is also very important, which is called use. That's the situation where you don't have a positive sample, but by other means, could be a testimony, video recording, phone recording, you basically can assess and establish that an athlete took a prohibited substance. However, when you have a question of use, it's quite limited, and usually it's either or. It's either you have a positive test or you have a question of use. In the case of Aivi Luik, the situation is quite special because you don't have a positive test, so you cannot have the demonstration that she actually got the substance in her body. But, and that was no secret, she went to a doctor to take an injection of a glucocorticoid. And glucocorticoids are only prohibited in competition. It means that it's absolutely common for athletes when they're injured to go to a doctor, have an injection most of the time, and then be able to return to play couple of days or week or months after, depending if they are able to play or not. And what happened to Aivi Luik was exactly this. She had a back pain. She went to the doctor, took an injection from a back specialist. And then a couple of days later, she went back to play. She actually didn't really play. She was on the bench because the pain was still too strong. But basically, she participated in a game in the sense of the WADA code. What happened in the meantime is that the club decided to apply for a therapeutic use exemption. You've probably heard this term before, but it's what we call a TUE. And usually a TUE is requested when you want to play a game and you absolutely have to take a certain substance medically, and then the anti-doping authority will allow you to do so or not, depending your explanation. But in the case of Aivi Luik, the club didn't need to ask for it, but I think they did it in good faith, just trying to be transparent and say, just for you to know, the player took this substance out of competition, which is allowed. So please confirm that it is okay. Surprisingly, the Italian authority considered that the theory should be rejected. And what's happened from there is that they consider that as she played the game, she was to be considered having used a substance. However, and that's where we are a bit having some difficulty to follow the Italian anti-doping authority, is that the WADA code clearly says you have a right, basically, to play with this substance potentially in your body, but you take a risk in case of positive test to have a case against you for a breach of the WADA code. So what happened to Aivi? She potentially had the substance in her body because, of course, she took the substance, but with no positive test. She should never have been prosecuted for this case.
Mm. And as you say, she was given this medication legally when she was not playing and was then on the bench for that game. So, have you ever seen a case like this, or do you have a sense maybe that they're trying to use this case to set a precedent which would enable them to go after other athletes? And if this is indeed a precedent, oh my gosh, doesn't that open a minefield? Because how many athletes are legally getting treated with this sort of medication, as they're entitled to do, and have come back and are playing in many sports?
That's a very good point you're raising, because it is very common for athletes to get treated outside of competition. Could be during off season, but can also be during the week between two games, for instance. I've read some statistics, they're a bit old, I think they are from the early 2000s, but basically it was established that about 85% of Olympic athletes at some point in their career has been using this kind of glucocorticoid to treat an injury, meaning that it's absolutely common for athletes to do so. And we all know how traumatic sports can be for the body. And allowing this kind of substance to be used out of competition, it's precisely to permit athletes to try to fix an injury or to ease the pain of an injury as well. And to answer your question, no, I've never seen a case like this. And I've asked many colleagues heavily involved in anti-doping, and we have been just unable to find a situation like this. So what does it tell? Either there were no situation like this in the past, but we all know it's impossible because athletes are typically taking this kind of substance off season, then they go to play. So we might have had situation like this before. What I believe is that the Italian anti-doping agency just tried another way to apply the rules, which we believe is simply wrong.
Mm. So the opportunity, Ivy said, is there to go to CAS to continue to fight this, but that then becomes a question of finances and mental strength, because it takes a lot out of you and it takes a very long time. And again, there are no guarantees of success. So in your professional opinion, if it went to CAS, how do you think it would go?
On a pure legal point of view, I think the rules are clear. And I was saying earlier, the rules, the water code is quite clear. And just to give you an idea, Article 2.2 of the water code is the article that defines the violation of use. And you have a little note, a comment on this article, which precisely say that using an in competition substance ban only, but outside of competition cannot be a violation of 2.2. And for you to maybe understand how the systematic of the code works, is that this comment that are attached to every single article of the WADA code, they are an obligation for a federation. So they have to apply it. It's like another part of the rules.
Mm.
So on a pure legal perspective, I don't think there is many way to not apply this specific comment or this article 2.2. So I think Aivi Luik will have some good chance of being a positive outcome if she goes to CAS.
So that leads to my next question, and that is, we know that WADA reviews cases all the time and often appeals cases when they feel that an anti-doping body like Nardo Italia has been too lenient on an athlete who has fallen foul of the system. What about a case like this, where it seems the athlete has been harshly done by, because according to the rules, there is no violation here? So what are the chances WADA might appeal this? Have they ever appealed in supporting an athlete?
I have to admit, I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of a situation where what I did appeal, I will say, in favor of an athlete. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I'm not aware of that. One will think that WADA would like the rules to be applied in the right way, whether it is in favor of an athlete or obviously against the athlete. But I don't think they will. I don't know if it's internal politics or if they just don't want to enter into this kind of situation. But it's also raised another question, which is the application of the rule. We know that the anti-doping rules are really, really harsh against athletes. Like for a lawyer, the question of proof, for instance, is something very important. But if you apply the WADA code, almost everything has to be proven by the athletes. For instance, if you have a positive sample, it's supposed to be proven, established by the federation. So the athlete has to show how the substance enter into a body or his body. It has to show how it happened and why, which most of the time is impossible. Just to set the rules are really, really harsh for the athletes. And in a case like the one of Aivi Luik, the only thing which is asked is basically just apply the rules, apply them how they are. That's it. And surprisingly, you still have some entity who think they have to go even further to the rules, so meaning even harsher against the athletes. And that it's really a problem, and it becomes, in my view, a problem if you only apply the rule in a certain way, but none when sometimes it's in favor of athletes. And the difficulty of fighting against doping implies that the rules need to be as broad or as favorable to the fight against doping. And of course, the system is not perfect, and a lot of lawyers will criticize this provision, this article, this way to act. But generally speaking, I think athletes accept the fact that the rules are really strict against them. They can live with that. And sometimes it creates injustice because you cannot prove, for instance, a contamination. So you're positive, you cannot prove how the sample was positive. So you will take 2 years, potentially 4, but let's say 2 years. And that's how it works. But on the other hand, what I think we cannot accept from governing bodies or anti-doping bodies is for them to twist the rules to try to catch other people. And then we go back to the political aspect of it. This entity, this national entity, they have their voice in the anti-doping system. They can go to WADA and they can say, we are not okay with the way glucocorticoids are treated in the code. We want it to be banned at all time, in and out competition. If you want that, go and ask for it to WADA, do some lobbying. But then when the rules are implemented, just apply the rule. Don't apply what or how you would like the rule to be implemented.
Alexis Schoeb, lawyer for Aivi Luik, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you for taking the time to listen to Aivi's story.